So the first thing is that Claire Marie told me I had to use a microphone today. Those who know me know that I am quite used to talking to a large audience and I tend to shout sometimes. So I hope that this doesn't start squeaking. So as mentioned, my name's Elaine Ferneley. I don't really use the title professor very often because I think it does put a barrier between the academic and their audience. But it is a title that I acquired about 10 years ago, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So hopefully, there we go. Everything on this screen is elongated, I've noticed. So first of all, something about myself. I have been at Manchester Business School for about 5.5 years, but I have a confession to make. I'm not really, or wasn't originally, a business person. I'm actually a recovering computer scientist. So I spent the first 12 years of my working life as a computer scientist, diligently working away in some very old-fashioned programming languages such as Fortran and eventually C, and then I gravitated towards C++. I ended up in Australia. I ended up working for IBM in Australia in my early 30s. And then something quite odd happened. I got a phone call suggesting that I might take up a PhD position at UMIST, a more scientific part of the University of Manchester as was. But I had a choice. This phone call arrived on a Thursday. It wasn't actually a direct phone call. I'll tell you a bit of the story because I think Marnie was talking about pre-technology before. And this was the days before mobile phones or really the internet. And I actually phoned home. And I phoned home from Hong Kong because I'd gone on a short holiday to Hong Kong from Australia. And I spoke to my mum. And my mum turned around and she said, there's this guy phoning you up from UMIST and he says you have to get in touch with him, but you have to get in touch with him straight away. And he's got an opportunity for you. So I phoned him up and he said, yeah, I've got a PhD place for you, a funded PhD place for you. Now these things don't really exist. They're like hen's teeth, you know. And he said, there's one condition. You have to be in Manchester on Monday. You have to come and sign the old-fashioned paperwork on the dotted line on Monday if you want a funded PhD place. So rather than go back to Australia, and rather than resume my life as a computer scientist working in Melbourne for IBM, I got on a plane and instead I came to Manchester. And on the Monday morning, I walked into my professor's office to find that he didn't turn up till 11:30. And eventually, I signed on the dotted line. And my life fundamentally changed. I did a PhD, and I slowly moved from being a computer scientist to doing what I do today, which is I run the global business part of Manchester Business School. I run an educational business, and we turn over £24 million a year. But more importantly, what we do is we transform the lives of people, particularly women actually, but we do transform the lives of people who wish to come back into education and learn more about what it is to be involved in business. We deliver our programme to approximately 2,500 people around the world. We have centres in all sorts of places, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And I feel absolutely privileged. I love my day job. You know, you're talking about loving the job. I feel absolutely privileged to lead a fantastic team of people, largely women. There's several of them here today. I'm really pleased to see them here today. So also some students who are here today, which is fantastic. I'm really privileged to help transform people's lives. And I want to take you through the journey that is the University of Manchester and that is the opportunity to transform your lives through education, as I did when I came back to Manchester. Early 30s, was a computer scientist, went back into education quite a few years later. I am now, as I say, running a global business, which is privileged to educate both men and women around the world. So why did I come back to this particular university, though? I think it's important as part of the educational journey today is to maybe teach you a little bit about the fantastic university that is in Manchester. And first of all, in case you weren't aware, Manchester University was originally established in 1824 by men, particularly by doctors. So it was originally set up in 1824 as an institution to educate the medical profession, to educate doctors. It then got a major legacy. Somebody was prepared to take the risk in 1847 of investing £100,000 in what was Manchester University. It's particularly a guy called John Owens, and you may have come across the Owens building, you may have heard the name John Owens. So John invested £100,000 in 1847. Can you imagine? It was a lot of money in that time to put that amount of money into an establishment, to invest in what was a very small enterprise at the time and to have faith in that enterprise. But that's where we come from. We come from that £100,000 legacy, investing in particularly non-sectarian education. So it was the first university established outside of London that was non-sectarian. It had a mission and still does to educate all of those who wish to have access to education regardless of background. And that's still something that is critical to our mission. Again, what you may not be aware of course, is the size of the University of Manchester now. It's actually the largest university in the UK, apart from the Open University and what's called the Federated University of London, so the set of colleges that are in London. So it's a very large university, and we as members of Manchester and the North West should be very proud of our university. We've got great things happening like graphene, and we have great things happening in various parts of the world as part of our business school, as part of our university, as well as here in Manchester. So it then comes to where I work. Well, I work in the business school, and the business school has been very brave because it was set up 50 years ago. It was set up by a particular Act of Parliament that recognised that the education of business professionals was lacking in the UK. So what happened was there was a report called the Franks Report, which decided that it was essential that we educate people in the practice of business. The Franks Report particularly decided that the government should invest in 2 business schools, one in London, perhaps no surprise, specialising in finance, and one in Manchester, specialising in organisational behaviour, specialising in understanding that business is about people and the interrelationships between people. So we were established 50 years ago, effectively by Act of Parliament, and we've pretty much been doing the same thing ever since. We have been focusing on the practice of business through the lens of organisational behaviour, through the lens of improving people and making people understand that businesses don't operate unless they take on the human aspects of what it is to be in business. We've been doing it for 50 years. Our 50th anniversary logo's in the bottom right-hand corner. And there's some quite old photos here, some better than others. But one of the things I did want to mention was the photo in the middle, which was we were the first business school to start recognising the importance of technology in the curriculum. And we continue to do that to this day. We were also the first business school to give a woman a professorship, Enid Mumford, and particularly for her inspirational thoughts when it came to technology in business. So fantastic that we gave the first female chair in a business school as part of our activities some years ago. So that's a little bit of the background to us historically. We have been taking risks for quite some time, bringing new curriculum into the agenda, and indeed starting to think more globally. So again, Manchester Business School is the first one that decided that it's all very well to bring students to Manchester, but our students need to also travel the world. And perhaps most significantly, perhaps it's a good idea to take our education around the world as well. You do have a bit of a challenge here. I wonder if on this rather stretched impression you can work out where these places are. The first one, to give you a hint, anybody know this one? Singapore, great. We've been in Singapore for 22 years. Next one? Dubai. Okay, so our largest centre is in Dubai. We're educating just over 1,000 people there at the moment. Next one along? Shanghai, of course. Okay, so we've been there for the last 6 years. Our second biggest centre, about 600 students. This one's the challenge. Okay, anybody got an idea about this one? Now, I have 2 of my marketing people in the room at the moment, and I have to say I'm particularly impressed that they managed to find a picture of Sao Paulo that included water. If you happen to have been, it's a concrete jungle, and I've no idea where they found this particular image, but Sao Paulo, so one of our smaller ventures. We've been in Brazil for 5 years now. Next one along? It's Manchester. The next one? Hong Kong. Again, we've been in Hong Kong for over 20 years on Central. And the final one is perhaps quite an unusual one. Miami, yes. So we are a global business school, just in case nobody could work out where the pictures were from. We are spread around the world. However, there's some things to consider of setting up a global business school. I'm privileged to run our activities around the world. As I say, we have a number of students being taught in various locations, mainly MBA programs, a few people on the full-time MBA, my ladies over here, and in addition to that, many people on our part-time MBA program. I know I've got someone who's currently on our Global Executive MBA program in the room, but I can't see her. At the back we've got Emma, hi, who's on our Global Executive MBA program, and we also have, I think, a few graduates from the Global MBA, which is our executive MBA in the room as well, of course, including Claire Marie. So we have been taking risks around the world for over 20 years. Transnational education, taking education out of the UK and delivering education overseas, is indeed a challenge. Not least logistics. Taking professors out of Manchester and trying to persuade them to go to other parts of the world can sometimes be something of a challenge. Funnily enough, they all want to go to Miami, but many of them don't want to go to other parts of the world. Nevertheless, we deliver transnational education extremely successfully. I do have a secret. I deliver transnational education extremely successfully because of these ladies. Our centres are all run by women. We have a phenomenal team of women who drive our business overseas. And it's one of the key things, I think, about running something internationally, or anything really, is thinking about your people. Our business couldn't be what it is unless it was for the people that drive it. And the individuals who are here on the screen this morning are outstanding in their field of transnational education. They run satellite offices, they're very entrepreneurial, and they're a delight to work with. They're often a challenge to manage, though, because highly motivated, highly aspirational people can be. But I do like to regard them as friends as well. And I suppose you just have to guess which centre which individual runs. Okay, but it is taking no risks in that regard. I don't take any risks when it comes to the people who lead my business overseas. And similarly, with regards to the people who are in the room today who work on the MBA programme, I'm just going to point a couple of them out. Alison, would you mind just standing up to say hello? So Alison particularly has special responsibility for our Global Executive MBA. Fran? Fran particularly looks at business-to-business connections for Manchester Business School and the MBA programme. I've also got Ekaterina in the room. I saw she was around before. And Ekat as well is also here to try and recruit you. So if you do happen to be interested in a global MBA, please do see some of these ladies in the room. But seriously for a moment, I can be quite light-hearted and say I'm here to recruit you. And maybe I am. But what I am here to do for a moment is ask you to just think about what you're doing at the moment to expand your intellectual knowledge, to get you to think more critically and analytically. What do you do to stimulate your mind? What do you do as part of your life to make sure that you are continually learning? I hope it's a little bit more than some cursory CPD. I hope that you do take some time to reflect today on what you are doing to actually expose yourself to new knowledge, to new ideas, to new ways of thinking about business. So do take that moment and just reflect. What do you do to expand your mind? Because by expanding your mind is the way that you will find a way forward and onwards, to expose yourself to new information and new knowledge. And that was one of the things that I considered about 2.5 years ago. I thought, what are we doing that is different when it comes to management education? And I thought that some of our programs were perhaps a bit staid. So one of the risks that I took recently was to risk launching a very different program, our Executive MBA program. Taking the risk of putting together a new program of study is a significant risk for an academic leader. Bringing academics together to drive a new model of education is tricky, and it takes time. It takes time for people to start to understand the aims and objectives of a new type of program, to try and really understand what you're trying to do for your students. We sometimes refer to our mission statement at Manchester Business School, which is to transform lives. and particularly to transform individuals' lives and therefore allow them to transform the lives of people who they live and work with. And mission statements can be taken quite flippantly from time to time. But if you really are, as someone in education, going to consider what your mission is, to educate people, then you have to think about the curriculum and you have to think about the design of the programs that you put together. So it was with some trepidation, I think, that some 2 years ago, I started to put together a new program of study for people who really wanted to transform their lives. And what we ended up with was a program called GEMBA. We used the Manchester term GEMBA rather than the American term GEMBA because, well, we like to be different. And what we've done over the last couple of years is we've put together a new program that is quite revolutionary in its content. We do focus on the academic disciplines, of course, but perhaps more importantly, what we try and do is put together a network of very senior individuals who can work together and with each other. We believe in what's called the Manchester Method, a particular pedagogical approach to teaching, actually putting teams of people into small groups to work with each other, to challenge each other's mindsets and belief. And we particularly enjoy seeing people being stretched during that process and challenged during that process. At times our students find that quite challenging, learning by doing or learning in groups. I can see my MBAs over there thinking, oh no, she's talking about it again, it's hard. They'd much rather at times learn individually. But we do believe that learning collegiately, collaboratively, and even in confrontation from time to time is probably going to teach you more than learning just individually. So we use the Manchester Method. We believe in global immersion, so I don't believe in educating people just down the road in Manchester. I believe in taking them around the world on a journey of discovery, not only to new places, but also to new cultures and having new experiences overseas. So our global MBA does take people on a journey from Manchester to Shanghai, to Dubai. Emma's off to Miami in a couple of weeks' time, although rather worryingly, she's told me she hasn't actually booked her ticket yet. But there's plenty of time yet. And then finally, I think you're going to Hong Kong, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so that people have a choice as to where they go next, but I think Emma's going to Hong Kong for the joys of venture capital and private equity before you finally come back to Manchester. So we do believe in global education and transnational education, taking people on a journey of discovery. And one of the things I would recommend to you is take that journey of discovery. Do travel. Do enjoy the experience of going overseas, even if it's not on a formal program of study. Not least because, as somebody pointed out, you can get great jewellery and great handbags. Someone was just asking me where my handbag and my jewellery were from. £10 from China. And then, of course, we do believe in extracurricular activity. Education's not only about actually doing academic study. And a key part of our programme is what we call GEMBA Plus, which is where we do work individually with people on their personal and professional development. So that's a little bit about our GEMBA programme. It's probably the most challenging thing I've done, actually, far more challenging than coming back to the UK with just a suitcase, is putting together a team of academics to deliver a global programme that takes people around the world. But it's been great fun. And as part of that journey, what I've enjoyed is seeing some fantastic women start to transform their lives. I just thought I'd put this one up particularly because I just love the fact that I noticed it's the woman who's being put through this rather strange contraption. So this, I think, was about day 2, Emma? That was day 2. Okay, so day 2, for the UK experience, we like to take people up to our long-established partner, the Brave Trust. If you happen to know that organisation, it's fantastic. If you happen to be looking for personal development that is not university-based, then please do have a look at the Brave Trust, marvellous organisation that helps in professional development. We take people on to Dubai. For some reason, I hadn't got any pictures of Shanghai because I realised they just took videos. I've no idea what you were doing here. What are you doing here? Okay, so this is construction in Dubai. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in Dubai. So, construction tour in Dubai. Again, I'm not sure. I think you're listening to these guys. I don't know quite what's going on here. Okay, so was that the 2020 thing? Yeah, okay. So this particular Sheikh Mohammed, don't know who, is organising the Expo 2020 in Dubai. So nice opportunity there. So I just wanted to stick a couple of photos up about it with our students going around the world. But enough of our programme itself. You may not be aware of what's happening at the University of Manchester, although my colleague gave some insight with regards to developments at graphene. 2 minutes, is that we are in the process of completely transforming the south of the city. The university has a £1 billion investment taking place in infrastructure, the Institute of Graphene, obviously, and other building projects. The university is expanding massively. Its ambition is to be one of the top 20 universities in the world. We're getting close, but it is an aspiration that we have. And part of our aspiration is to change this. This is the current Manchester Business School. It was built in the 1960s and it's a little aged. I moved offices a couple of weeks ago and I now have more than 2 plug sockets, which is marvellous. But we are transforming. So my colleague was showing some pictures of buildings and I'm going to show you a couple more. The latest risks we're taking is that we've gone into the first public PFI deal that the university has engaged with. We're building a 210-roomed hotel in partnership with an Asian hotel company, M&L Holdings. In addition to 110 hotel rooms, there will also be 116 Staybridge suites in there. So if you happen to have colleagues coming to visit Manchester in the near future, please do book in. One of the challenges I do have at the moment, though, is that we're fully booked for 2017, and at the moment we don't have any builders. Long story. But it'll be fine. So what you'll also see happening in the University of Manchester, and particularly Manchester Business School over the next couple of years, is our commitment to executive education. So as well as MBA activity, in addition to that, we do offer continuing professional development through Exec Ed. And I think Jill's in the room from our Exec Ed group, or was in the room somewhere from our Exec Ed group, particularly tasked with outreach with regards to Exec Ed. So come and visit us. And one of the things that I should mention to you is if you're coming to visit us, a little bit of news that you may not be aware of, this is the view down Oxford Road towards the city. One thing you may notice is that there's no bridge. So there is going to be a little bit of disruption over the next few weeks. The iconic University of Manchester Bridge is coming down. The good news as far as I'm concerned, though, is it's going to be replaced with some great retail. So the retail space that's rather aged at the moment, I'm looking forward to hopefully a Marks and Spencer's, maybe a Waitrose, and definitely a dry cleaners. So that's what we're doing at the University of Manchester and Manchester Business School, home of innovation. We are looking to continue to transform people's lives. And can I just mention to you, if you take one thing away from here, it should be take a moment to reflect on what you're doing to continue expanding your mind. Okay, thank you very much.